Sometimes the heaviest thing you carry isn't the world, it's the past you refuse to release. You grip it so tight, not knowing it's choking the blessings meant for your hands. Letting go isn't giving up, it's making space for what's divine to arrive. Because peace doesn't come from holding on, it comes from having the courage to let go. Letting go is often misunderstood. Many people think it's a sign of defeat, that it means you couldn't handle the pressure or that you've given up too soon. But the truth is, letting go requires more strength than holding on. It's easy to cling to something familiar, even when it's causing pain. It's human nature to hold tight to what we know because the unknown feels frightening. But there comes a point when holding on no longer serves you. It drains you, it breaks you down, it steals your joy. True strength is having the courage to loosen your grip, open your hands, and trust that something better is waiting. Releasing what no longer serves you isn't about ignoring the value it once had. It's about acknowledging that its season in your life has ended. Maybe it was a relationship that once brought you happiness, a job that once gave you purpose, or a dream that once felt like your destiny. There's nothing weak about realizing that something that was once good for you may not be right for you anymore. Growth often means outgrowing people, places, and even versions of yourself. Strength lies in recognizing this truth and acting on it even when your heart aches. When you let go, you're not just removing something from your life, you're creating space. Space for peace to enter, space for blessings to flow in, space for opportunities you can't yet see. If your hands are full of things that hurt you, there's no room to receive what's meant to heal you. Imagine trying to carry heavy stones while someone is offering you gold. You can't take the gold until you drop the stones. Letting go works the same way. It's a trade and exchange. You release the weight, and you open yourself to receive something far more valuable. The real challenge is in trusting the process. We've been conditioned to believe that persistence is always noble, that if we just hold on longer, fight harder, things will improve. But not everything gets better with time. Some things only get heavier, and the longer you carry them, the more they crush you. Letting go means accepting that no matter how much effort you've put in, no matter how much you've hoped, the outcome will not change in a way that serves you. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's also the first step toward freedom. Strength in letting go is quiet but unshakable. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's simply choosing not to respond to a message that reopens an old wound. Sometimes it's walking away from an argument you could win, because peace matters more than being right. Sometimes it's clearing out your space of reminders that keep you trapped in the past. These actions may seem small, but they take immense courage because they go against the pull of old habits and emotions. You don't let go because you stop caring. You let go because you care too much about yourself to keep living in pain. You choose to value your mental health, your peace of mind, and your future over a past that cannot be changed. That's why letting go is a sign of strength. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying, I deserve better, even when you don't yet know where better will come from. When you release what no longer serves you, you start to see life differently. You begin to notice possibilities that were invisible while you were clinging to what was. Your energy shifts from trying to control what's slipping away to embracing what's arriving. And as you step into that space of openness, blessings have a way of finding you without force, without struggle. That is the gift of letting go. It doesn't just free your hands, it frees your soul. Surrender is one of the hardest lessons to learn because it goes against everything we've been taught about control. From a young age, we're told to set goals, make plans, and push relentlessly until we achieve them. We're taught that if something isn't happening, we need to work harder, think smarter, and force the outcome we want. But there's another truth that life eventually reveals. No matter how much you push, you can't force what isn't meant for you, and you can't stop what is. Surrender is not about giving up on your dreams. It's about trusting that there is a bigger plan at work, one that unfolds in its own perfect timing. When you surrender, you stop fighting against the current of life. You stop exhausting yourself trying to make things happen on your schedule. And instead, you open yourself to the flow of divine timing. Divine timing is the quiet, invisible orchestration of events, people, and circumstances that work together to bring you what's truly meant for you, exactly when you're ready for it. It doesn't operate on your impatience or your expectations. It operates on wisdom far greater than human understanding. Sometimes that means you get what you want sooner than you expect. Sometimes it means you wait longer than you'd like. But when it arrives, it comes with a sense of peace and rightness that forced outcomes can never give. Forcing something before its time is like trying to eat fruit before it's ripe. It may look ready on the outside, but the taste will be bitter, and it will never nourish you the way it should. The same is true for relationships, opportunities, and dreams. You might be able to force your way into a situation, but if it's not aligned with the right timing, it will crumble under the weight of its own unpreparedness. Surrender teaches you to trust the process, to believe that delays aren't denials, they're preparation. What feels like a setback may actually be protection from something that isn't ready to bless you yet. Trusting divine timing doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you take inspired action and then release your attachment to the outcome. You do your part, and then you allow life to do its part. You stop obsessing over when and how things will happen, and instead focus on becoming the person who will be ready to receive them. That shift in energy is powerful because it moves you from desperation to faith, from control to openness. And in that openness, miracles can enter in ways you could never have orchestrated yourself. The beauty of surrender is that it transforms your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, you begin to trust it. You understand that not having all the answers is part of the journey, and that some of the most beautiful blessings in life come when you least expect them. You stop clinging to your limited idea of how things should be, and you make space for life to surprise you with something far better. Sometimes, the greatest act of courage is to stand still and let life catch up to you. It's to say, I trust that what's mine will find me, and I don't have to chase it. This kind of faith doesn't happen overnight. It's built through experiences where you've seen doors close only to have better ones open later. The more you notice these patterns, the more you realize that divine timing has never failed you. It has only ever protected and guided you. When you truly surrender, you release the constant tension of trying to control life. You let go of the need to manipulate circumstances or rush the process. Instead, you live in a space of quiet confidence, knowing that everything you need will arrive when it's meant to. And when it does, you'll see why it couldn't have happened any sooner or later. That is the power of surrender. It aligns you perfectly with what is meant for you, at the exact moment it's meant to arrive. Somewhere along the way, many of us learn to equate our worth with how much we can endure. We wear our struggles like badges of honor, telling ourselves that the more pain we can tolerate, the stronger and more valuable we are. We push through unhealthy relationships, toxic work environments, and situations that drain our spirit, all because we've been conditioned to believe that quitting means failing and that suffering somehow proves our worth. But this belief is a heavy chain, one that keeps people trapped in cycles of exhaustion and heartbreak. Your value does not come from how much pain you can survive. It comes from how much you honor yourself by choosing peace. Pain tolerance is not a measure of character. Yes, resilience matters. Yes, the ability to face challenges with courage is admirable. But there is a difference between facing necessary challenges and clinging to unnecessary suffering. Enduring something that destroys your spirit is not strength. It's self-neglect disguised as loyalty, persistence, or even love. The truth is, anyone can stay in pain if they choose to, but it takes real courage to walk away from it, especially when you've been told that leaving makes you weak. Many people mistake endurance for love, commitment, or success. They stay in relationships that no longer nurture them, because they fear being alone. They work in jobs that crush their creativity because they believe stability is worth more than happiness. They keep pouring into people who never pour back, because they think self-sacrifice is the ultimate virtue. But there's nothing noble about living in a constant state of depletion. When you allow yourself to be drained in the name of endurance, you're not proving your worth. You're denying it. Choosing peace requires a shift in mindset. It's deciding that your mental, emotional, and physical well-being are not negotiable. It's understanding that you are not obligated to carry every burden or fight every battle. You have the right to step back, to rest, to create boundaries that protect your energy. This doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. People who know their worth don't let the world convince them that their value is tied to how much they can take. They measure their strength by how well they protect their peace, not by how much pain they can survive. One of the most empowering realizations you can have is that you do not need to justify your decision to leave situations that harm you. You don't need to explain why you no longer want to fight battles that were never yours to begin with. Your worth is constant and unchanging. Whether you choose to endure something or to walk away from it, it is not diminished by your decision to prioritize peace. It is affirmed by it. It's important to remember that peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of balance. Life will always bring difficulties, but there's a difference between challenges that help you grow and suffering that breaks you down. Enduring the former builds resilience. Enduring the latter erodes your spirit. Learning to tell the difference, and having the courage to step away from what only brings harm, is one of the greatest acts of self-love you can practice. You are not here to prove your strength by surviving constant storms. You are here to thrive, to experience joy, to live in alignment with your values. That doesn't mean you'll never face hardship, but it does mean you don't have to set up camp in the middle of it. You can choose to leave the places where you're only valued for your ability to endure, and instead find spaces where you're valued for your presence, your light, and your truth. Your worth is not up for debate, it is not earned through suffering, and it is not lost when you choose peace. In fact, the moment you decide that your well-being matters more than proving how much you can endure, you step fully into your power. That is when you stop surviving and start living. We often hear that closure is the final step in healing, as if it's a neat little bow that ties up all the loose ends of a painful chapter. We think that if we could just get the answers we crave, the apologies we deserve, or the explanations that make everything make sense, we'd finally be able to move forward. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the people who hurt you won't admit what they did. Sometimes they don't see it the way you do, or they've moved on without giving you a second thought. Sometimes the truth you're searching for doesn't exist in a way that would satisfy you. If you wait for closure to come from someone else, you may wait forever, and in the process you put your peace on hold. Closure is not a gift someone else gives you. It's a choice you make for yourself. It's the decision to stop replaying the same story in your mind, to stop chasing validation from people who could not give it when you needed it most. It's realizing that the answers you're looking for might not change the reality of what happened, and they certainly won't undo the pain. You may never understand why someone did what they did, but you can understand that you deserve to live free from the weight of their actions. Holding out for closure often keeps you tied to the very thing you're trying to release. It becomes an invisible chain, linking you to the past and preventing you from stepping fully into the present. You tell yourself you can't move on until you get closure. But the truth is, waiting for it gives your power away. It makes your healing dependent on someone else's willingness to give you what you need. And some people simply will not, or cannot, give that to you. Choosing peace over closure means deciding that your healing is more important than your curiosity. It means you're willing to accept that the story may remain unfinished in your mind. But that doesn't mean your life has to be unfinished too. You stop seeking final words from others and instead give them to yourself. You write your own ending to the chapter, even if it's just, "This happened, and I am still worthy of joy." A peace is essential because it allows you to reclaim your present. Without it, you're stuck in a loop of what if and why, constantly revisiting old wounds instead of living in the now. Peace doesn't require every question to be answered. It requires you to stop needing the answers in order to feel whole. It asks you to let go of the need to rewrite the past and instead focus on creating a better future. There's a kind of quiet strength in moving forward without closure. It means you've stopped looking backward for your freedom. It means you've learned to trust yourself enough to heal without someone else's help. It means you've accepted that some chapters will always be incomplete in the traditional sense. But that doesn't make your story any less worth living. Life rarely offers perfect endings. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the explanation would hurt more than the silence. Sometimes the only why is that people are flawed, and pain is a part of life. But even without the closure you thought you needed, you can still find peace. You can still laugh, love, grow, and create a life that feels good to wake up to. Peace is not dependent on someone else's words. It's born from your own decision to stop letting the past have power over you. You don't have to wait for closure to begin again. You can decide today that your peace matters more than the missing pieces of the story. And when you make that choice, you'll discover that moving forward was never about getting closure from them. It was always about giving freedom to yourself. We live in a world that constantly tells us to push harder, plan more, and control every detail of our lives. We're taught that success comes from relentless effort, that if we can just keep our hands on the wheel tightly enough, we can steer life exactly where we want it to go. But in reality, control is often an illusion. No matter how much we plan, there are countless variables outside of our reach. The tighter we try to grip every outcome, the more stressed, anxious, and drained we become. Releasing control isn't about giving up. It's about opening up. It's about creating the space for life to surprise you in ways you couldn't have orchestrated yourself. When you try to control everything, you leave no room for the unexpected gifts the universe can offer. Opportunities and blessings often arrive in ways we don't anticipate, and sometimes they don't fit neatly into the plans we've made. But if your hands, mind, and heart are already full of rigid expectations, there's no space for these gifts to land. By letting go, you invite something greater than your own limited vision to take the lead. You allow space for miracles, the kind you couldn't have planned, but that turn out to be exactly what you needed. Releasing control requires trust. It's trusting that not every detail needs to be micromanaged. It's believing that what is meant for you will not pass you by, even if you take a step back. It's the understanding that life unfolds in its own timing, and that timing is often better than the one you would have chosen. Sometimes delays are protection. Sometimes detours lead to destinations far more beautiful than the ones you had mapped out. Trust means being willing to walk forward without needing to see the entire road. This doesn't mean you stop making effort. Letting go of control is not the same as doing nothing. You still show up, take action, and move toward your goals, but you do so with an openness to how they might arrive. You release the tight grip on the how and when, and focus instead on the what and why. You plant seeds through your actions, but you allow them to grow in their own time. You don't dig them up every day to check their progress. You trust the process. The irony is that when you stop forcing outcomes, you often receive more than you imagined. Opportunities flow more easily because you're no longer blocking them with rigid expectations. People feel more comfortable connecting with you because your energy is open and receptive rather than tense and controlling. Life starts to feel lighter because you've stopped trying to fight it into submission. Control is rooted in fear. The fear that if you don't manage every detail, everything will fall apart. But when you operate from fear, your world becomes small. Releasing control is rooted in faith, faith in yourself, faith in your resilience, and faith that there is a greater order to things. Faith expands your world because it allows you to move forward without being paralyzed by the need to predict and manipulate every outcome. When you make space by letting go, you begin to notice the subtle ways life supports you. A conversation leads to a connection you never planned. A rejection redirects you to an opportunity that fits you perfectly. A quiet moment of stillness sparks an idea that changes everything. These are the moments you might have missed if you had been too busy forcing your own plan. In the end, releasing control isn't about losing power. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's about recognizing that you don't have to carry the entire weight of making life happen. You can set your intentions, take aligned action, and then allow life to meet you halfway. And when you do, you'll often find that the universe delivers in ways that far exceed your imagination. That is the beauty of making space. It allows miracles and opportunities to flow into your life, naturally and abundantly. Choosing yourself has long been painted as selfish by a world that benefits from people who put their own needs last. From a young age, many of us are taught to prioritize the comfort, happiness, and expectations of others. Even if it comes at the expense of our own well-being, we learn to say yes when we mean no, to show up when we're exhausted, to stay in situations that deplete us simply because we don't want to disappoint someone. Over time, this conditioning convinces us that self-sacrifice is a virtue, and that turning away from what hurts us is a form of betrayal. But in truth, choosing yourself is not selfish. It's an act of courage, wisdom, and deep self-love. When you walk away from what drains you, you're making a powerful statement about your worth. You're saying, my peace matters, my energy matters, my life matters. It takes strength to set boundaries when the world has taught you that your boundaries are an inconvenience. It takes courage to step out of relationships, environments, or habits that no longer support your growth, especially when there's pressure to stay. The choice to protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being is not an act of neglect toward others, it's an act of respect toward yourself. Choosing yourself also allows you to show up better for others in the long run. When you're constantly depleted, resentful, or running on empty, you cannot give from a place of authenticity or abundance. You end up giving scraps of your time, attention, and love, never your best. But when you protect your energy and make decisions that align with your values and needs, you become fuller, stronger, and more capable of offering genuine care to the people who truly matter. Walking away from what drains you isn't about abandoning people, it's about refusing to abandon yourself. The wisdom in choosing yourself lies in recognizing that your life is finite. Every day you spend in a space that diminishes you is a day you could have spent building something that nourishes you. Opportunities, joy, and growth often hide behind the doors you're too afraid to close. It's easy to cling to familiarity, even when it hurts, because the unknown feels uncertain. But the truth is, the moment you let go of what is draining you, you create space for something better to enter. Life doesn't usually reward the ones who cling the tightest. It rewards the ones who are willing to release and trust. There will be people who misunderstand or judge your choice to walk away. They may call you selfish because your decision no longer benefits them. They may project their own fears of change onto you. That's why choosing yourself requires not just courage, but self-trust. You must trust that your happiness is worth protecting, even if others can't see it. You must trust that your future self will thank you for every step you take away from what harms you. And you must trust that the relationships and situations meant for you will never require you to shrink, suffer, or sacrifice your soul to keep them. Self-love is not just about bubble bath affirmations and moments of joy. It's about making hard decisions in service of your well-being. Sometimes self-love means saying no when you're expected to say yes. Sometimes it means taking the risk of being alone rather than staying somewhere you feel unseen or unvalued. And sometimes it means walking away quietly, without explanation, simply because you know you deserve better. Choosing yourself is one of the bravest acts you can commit to, because it requires you to confront fear, guilt, and the weight of other people's expectations. But when you do, you reclaim your life. You step into a space where your happiness, peace, and energy are no longer negotiable. And from that place, you're free to create a life that not only sustains you, but inspires you. That is not selfish. That is survival wisdom, and the purest form of love you can ever give yourself. Life will constantly ask you to hold on to people, situations, and versions of yourself that you've outgrown. But the real strength lies in knowing when to let go, when to surrender, when to choose peace over closure, and when to step back so something greater can step in. Your worth is not defined by how much you can endure, but by how fiercely you protect your peace and how boldly you choose yourself, even when it's hard. Releasing control doesn't mean losing. It means making room for miracles you couldn't plan. Walking away from what drains you isn't selfish. It's the highest act of self-respect. In the end, life isn't about clinging to what's comfortable, but about having the courage to trust the unknown. When you let go of what weighs you down, you rise. And when you rise, you inspire others to do the same.